All right, we are live. Welcome in latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. Go by SEC Mike on Twitter. And joined not by cousin Shane, we are joined special edition here with Chris Marler live from his cave in Afghanistan. How's it going, brother?
SEC Chris, I'm rebranding now that I'm not with SCS. So I'm just gonna follow your lead with everything. This is great. I'm good. Yeah, this is like, I didn't realize how bad the quality of my video is, but it's all equipment that I didn't buy for myself, my old company. But excited to be here.
Yeah, tell us before we get rolling here, because we got a lot of. I really just want to bash Alabama for as long as you're on here, but before we get to that, your new project, Fourth and Wrong. Can you tell the audience about that and what you're trying to accomplish there with? Well, I mean, there's not many podcasts out there, so you're jumping into the medium at the perfect time.
Yeah, totally. I'm excited to rebrand the podcast for the fourth time. That's super fun. No, it's we haven't even launched it yet because, like I said, I announced my break from SDS last week. You'll have to give me about a week or two until I'm legally allowed to make any announcements. But Fourth and Wrong will be the new project, most likely. The name of it will be a new podcast with my old coach, Tyler Huck. It'll be a lot of fun. So we'll be talking about. I always say if you love college football and hate the bleep button, you'll love the show. And yeah, so we'll go from there.
Well, it's interesting, Chris, because that reminds me of working for one Kalen DeBoer there at Alabama. It doesn't seem like he knows what the hell he's doing. He's bringing offensive coordinators, offensive line coaches. They're out the door within weeks. He's trying to hire linebacker coaches. They decide to go to at Tennessee at the last minute. What the hell is going on here with Alabama? And are you going to enjoy this 7-5 season that's coming?
So this is what I always say. If it wasn't like if I hadn't been hearing this for so long, then I probably would be worried. But I've heard this forever. I'm not super concerned about it. I don't know, like rating the hires. I think Travis Robinson was been a very good get for him. I think that I saw recently from 247 or maybe it was Josh Pate that put out the biggest for like the coaching cycle, and I think he was second overall for assistants. I mean, I think it's a good get. I also think it was like the right move for him to go to Georgia. I'm just not going to sit here in the camp and say that the sky is falling in Tuscaloosa. I think that no matter what is happening, it is going to get shit on from rival fans. Like, just no matter what. I mean, like I said this before, Bama could have gone out and rehired Nick Saban, and rival fans would have like hours after he retired, and like rival fans would have been like, he's lost his edge, he's not good anymore. Like all that shit, like it would have been the same exact thing. So I'm not super worried about it. There's one thing I know about Kalen DeBoer and what he's been able to do in his I think the kind of short coaching career. It's win. And if you're Bama, you want to bridge the gap from Saban to whatever's next. And I think that if this is the next hire, I think that he's going to win.
Yeah, that missed out on Billy Napier. They should have got him when they had the chances, Michael Riley. I do agree with that statement, but I don't know. I mean, I was on the Kalen DeBoer bandwagon. It's funny, I've already jumped off. We haven't even had a spring practice yet. We probably should pump the brakes a little bit here, but I don't know. And so, Chris, you've been doing some media for us here, so I do appreciate that. I want to jump into some of that as well. But there's a popular topic going on right now is who should be on the cover of the upcoming EA Sports college football video game. And it seems like the most popular option that people are throwing out there is Nick Saban. Do you think he wants any part of it? How would you feel about him being on the cover, or should they go with an active athlete? They've never been able to have an active athlete, but now with NIL, they could do that. Or should they put the GOAT on there? I'd like to see Mike Leach incorporated in some way. What's your thoughts on what they should do with the cover?
So I hate to say this, I don't know if Leach had Brian Harsin. Michael Riley's on fire. I like Michael Riley a lot. I don't think that, I hate to say this, I don't think that Leach has the staying power. And this sounds so shitty, and I don't mean it in a shitty way, but like it seems like if it had just happened, right? I think that it would have been easier for that to be the cover for sure.
Yeah.
But I also don't think it's like it's also different because it's not just the fact that like this game hasn't come out in 10 years, so or 11 now, I guess. So it's like I think that people are going to want to have like something with a little bit more staying power, something that's like a little bit more celebratory, and I think meaning. I hate to say this again, but I think like meaningful to like what the current state of what's going on in college football is. So I don't think it'll be a current player. I think it will be Saban. If it's not Saban, my vote would go to, you look at some of the players over the last decade of college football and who it should be. Joe Burrow seems to be a guy that I think it would make the most sense because everyone loved Joe Burrow at 2019 LSU team. So I think that could be something as well.
Well, people are getting mad, Chris. That's what people do on the internet. They're saying, why? Because I titled this Alabama in Shambles featuring Chris Marler. And I don't know if you saw it recently. It's gone pretty viral here. Interview yesterday with Jake Wimberly. I know he's a friend of yours. He has
his model.
Yeah, exactly. So his model, for anybody that missed it, it's got Bama 8-4 next season. So I'm going to throw up their schedule so we can bash the Crimson Tide real quick here. Here's what Alabama's looking at next season. 3 winnable non-conference right out the gate. Of course, we know they're going to just get absolutely dog stomped by Georgia September 28th. Vanderbilt, that's kind of like a toss-up type game, in my opinion, with Kalen DeBoer as your head coach. Shane Beamer, South Carolina, I think they can win that one. Tennessee, no shot in hell they win that one. Missouri may be the second best team in the SEC next year, so that's iffy. At LSU, I mean, they got Nick Saban couldn't win in Baton Rouge last I checked. They'll probably beat Mercer at Oklahoma. Big trap game before that Iron Bowl. So, are you even confident that the Crimson Tide can go 8-4?
Well, I just want to start by bringing up my favorite stat of all time, since you decided to go out of your way to bring up the Death Valley thing. Alabama playing at Death Valley, like right, Saban could not win there, and it's a huge win that Brian Kelly had in year one there for. What is it? Let me do my math here. Oh, the 6th overall win for LSU against Alabama in Death Valley. That was the 6th time they've beaten Alabama since 1957. So huge congrats. I know we're 2 years removed from it. It was a 1-point win in overtime in the last play of the game. Huge congrats to LSU on that one. Listen, here's the thing. I make no bones about it. Like I grew up a Bama fan. I try to be as objective as possible. I don't think 8-4 is like that far-fetched. I'm not saying that they're going to go 8-4, but if you look at the schedule, I think you could make the case that they could go 8-4. Put the schedule back up real quick, because going through it, Wisconsin's not a gimme. You're in year 2 of Luke Fickell's era, or Luke Fickell's tenure there at Wisconsin. I do think Georgia is probably a loss. Luckily they get a bye before that. I think the one on the schedule more than anything stands out to me as a definite loss. And I'm not just it pains me to say this, but Tennessee is the one that stands out to me as like that is the scariest thing on there. The other thing I don't love about this schedule, is the only back-to-back home games you have are the first 2 weeks of the season. Like you don't get a lot of a chance to get 3-4 games in a row at home and get into a situation where you got to get work out some kinks and in a friendly environment and then go face the month of November like they've been able to do sometimes in the past. Like I said, that game, you look at the month of November, losing 2 of those 3, you could talk me into that. I don't think they lose to Auburn at home. I don't think they lose to Missouri necessarily at home. And here's the other thing too, is that Caleb DeBoer, again, he's 1-1 immediately everywhere he's gone. So I think that works in their favor, but I don't think 8-4 is egregious. I'm not saying I think it's going to happen, but I don't think it's egregious.
Well, the one that really jumped out to me, it's popular to just shit on the Gators right now. I think they're going to be a lot better than people anticipate. But Jake had them at 2-10. 2-10. Now his model is very high on Miami, so that's who Florida opens with. And losing that, you lose that opener. Again, I 2-10 I think is a little egregious, but I don't think they're going to go to a bowl game. I'll say that if they lose to Miami in the opener, let's assume they do, even though I don't think you should assume that. But let's just for the sake of argument here, Chris, if they lose to Miami, what record prediction you got for the Gators?
Bro, I said this summer when I did a video about this. That Samford game, Stanford put up 52 on Florida the last time we played in the swamp. So, like, I kind of want to agree with you. I don't think the sky is falling as much as people think it is in Florida. 2-10 sounds crazy, but that schedule's not easy, man. That schedule's not easy. UCF will be breaking a new quarterback at least. It's KJ Jefferson. It's like that's a guy that beat you in the swamp last year. On the road against Tennessee, that's a loss. Like maybe Kentucky's a win. The scary thing for Florida is, like from the talent standpoint, I think that Napier did a good job, better than people give credit for, to hold together that class as much as he could. Because I thought it was going to be a disaster. Like they went from like I think second or third in the country to like 16 by the end of the year, but like I thought it was going to be even worse. So. There's not a game on here that's, oh, thank God we get a break. I mean, Mississippi State maybe is like, you could argue that might be the easiest game on the schedule besides Samford. It's awful.
Right. And the most popular response I saw, Chris, this made me laugh. I wish I would have thought this line, but when I threw it out there that Jake's model has got Florida at 2-10, they said, okay, so Tennessee's one of the wins. What's the other one? Because we just assumed. I mean, they always beat damn Tennessee. No matter how good Tennessee is, how shitty they are, they still win that game. One thing that really jumped out to me, though, he's got Texas being the only undefeated team in the SEC. How big of a surprise would it be to you, Chris? Because you called it. You don't hide the fact you're an Alabama homer, but you said, hey, Texas is going to walk into Tuscaloosa and they're going to beat Alabama. You called it last season.
I said they were going to beat them by 10 points.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you've got Texas kind of figured out. Mm-hmm. Would you be surprised first season in the SEC if they go 12-0? Honestly, I would be surprised. I'm not saying they're not elite, but 12-0, considering they play Georgia, at A&M, Oklahoma, of course. I don't know if 12-0 right off the bat, but what do you think?
I'd be shocked. I would be shocked. I will say, looking at this schedule, it's crazy because I think when you look at all the SEC schedules, they're all going to be difficult, right? This one does just between the last of the three you've shown me, between Bama, Florida, and this one clearly feels different and a little bit easier. Maybe Michigan in the Big House isn't a cakewalk, but it's not the toughest place to play. It's big. It's not super loud like SEC stadiums are, and they lose a ton of people. So I think that and Texas is going to be really good regardless. That game at home against Georgia, like Kirby Smart on the road has been incredible at Georgia. Yeah, he only lost 4 games on the road since he's been head coach at Georgia. They've all come to SEC West teams, which obviously don't have divisions anymore. But it's been a while since he's lost anything. In the regular season, even, right? Like he's lost, I think, two games in the regular season, and in the last 4 years, and only one of them has been in a true road game, and that was back in 2020. So that's insane to me. I will say I think that Texas OU, it doesn't really do that much for me this year. I don't think that OU is going to be very good. They did give him a little bit of an easy end to the season too. Arkansas, Kentucky, and A&M. That's about as easy as a month of November you can get, I feel like, in year one.
Yeah, and then so I referenced you doing some work for us here. You did this outstanding graphic. Stephen Lassen and I last week we talked about the top games for next season, kind of most competitive games. Yeah. So you worked up this graphic for us. Thoughts on this, Chris? I mean, Georgia at Texas, to me, is going to be the best game of the year, most competitive game in the SEC. Georgia at Alabama, I got that number 2. Let's start with those two. How high would those be on your list?
Those would be the top 2. And you look at the way you did it, Mike, like this is your list. You look at the names and the logos that jump out to you in the top 5 games of the year, right? And it's that Georgia G, and then it's the Longhorn. And you got the Bama A sprinkled in there as well. I think that Georgia and Texas are the class of the SEC going into the season. Maybe I'm totally wrong. I don't think Georgia takes a step back at all. I think that anything they have a chip on their shoulder, it's going to be even worse for teams going into this season. The only other one, like going through it, just like Texas OU, LSU, Ole Miss. I think LSU got who'd they get? They got Texas or they got OU at home.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bama Mizzou, I think is a very, very underrated game. I love A&M Texas. I'm glad we finally get to have that back. It's a great, great rivalry. Tennessee OU, that's also a good one. My dog Pepper says hi. But I tell you what, the only one on here that does not that stands out to me is I think that Mizzou gets Oklahoma. And if you paid attention to any of those, anything on Twitter at least, right? This entire offseason, that is a rivalry that has like picked up a lot of steam going into this season. And those fan bases don't like each other. I mean, Oklahoma's schedule is not easy at all. So, but I think that game specifically is probably the only one I would say maybe you left off. But these, I mean, yeah, like I think that your Texas and UGA, that is the absolute, I think, pinnacle of what we're talking about for like the top two games. When you should have circled, if that's CBS's night game, that would make the most sense. And I tell you what's crazy, and what we're going to see in this new age of college football is you go down to number 3 here, and Tennessee Bama, it's the same damn weekend. So it's like that's like what day of college football we're going to get with those two matchups.
Well, that's the beauty of the entire SEC package, Chris. Going to ABC, ESPN, we are going to get triple header action. You know, probably a noon game on ABC, what have you, or ESPN, and then probably 3:30 on ABC, right. And then the night game on ESPN of all SEC action. Yeah. That's going to kick a lot of these, like a Texas, Georgia. Normally that'd be your guaranteed 3:30 CBS. Yeah. But now they could kick it to a night game. And a lot of these, I think, are going to be a lot more night games than we're getting used to. So it's just in a year of change, there's so much change coming. I think, some things like that are going to get lost. Like, oh, God, the best games now are they're not going to be exclusively night games. But I'm going to be very interested to see how the network plans this. And hopefully, I think because Fox is so dedicated to the big noon kickoff, whatever the hell that stupid garbage is. Thankfully, I don't think the SEC is going to go that route. I think they're going to go more towards the 3:30 and the night kickoffs, which, I like that a lot better anyway, don't you?
I know, right? Like, I do think it gives you – it's a little bit – it's going to take a while to get used to, right? What's up, Joshua Sandler? It's going to take a while to get used to. And I tell you what's going to be weird, Mike, is like – I love the idea of them playing at night. Like, I love that idea. I think that's great. I think it'll be super fun for the fans. God, man, you're going to give Cousin Shane a full day to drink for some of those games. That is terrifying for people. Liquor sales are going to be through the roof places. But I will say this, too. I think that it's going to be super weird, like on a day like thanks, Andrew. I think the like on a day like the Week 8 thing, right, where it's like Bama and Tennessee and Texas and UGA, Bama Tennessee game has all the feels of a 3:30, but say it's like another like having Texas UGA at night under the lights in prime time, the Fowler and Herb Street game of the week type thing. Love that. Like, I love that. I will also tell you that 3:30, if you're getting whoever you're getting is going up directly against that CBS nationally broadcast game of the week, and that's just going to be odd to see. Or like, I just think it's going to be like October when you're going to see fans flipping over to see, Gary and Brad Nessler, and then they're going to end up being like, "What the hell is this? Why are they in Piscataway, New Jersey, or where the fuck Rutgers is?"
Yeah, no, I think that's that they're going to be shitting themselves when they see their numbers. Big 12 games or Big 10, whatever the hell it is, compared to SEC, how it was last year. I truly think. How about this, Chris? I wanted to ask you, which coach you think gets fired next year first in the SEC? We got
Kalen DeBoer.
DeBoer? I would agree with it. No, I'm just kidding.
That's tough. Who I think gets fired first? I mean, I hate to say it, but I think it's Pittman. I think if they're already kind of like fed up with him, which is I hate. Like, I think it's so shitty. Like, I think he did such a good job a couple years ago, and I think he deserves to be given a little bit longer of a leash. I know that SEC record is tough. I know that overall record is tough. I mean, again, man, before he got there, like he won more games in 2021 when he won 9 games. He won more than the 3 years combined, I think, for Arkansas from like 2017 to 2019. Yeah. Like, I just feel like he did a tremendous job, and I don't know what they're going to do with him, but I think that the fan base seems restless in general. I don't know if you've kept up with Arkansas Twitter at all, but they're not happy about baseball. They're definitely not happy about basketball. They got like a love triangle going on that team, and now they've got like Pittman got to get back to football season, and it's going to be even tougher. So that's just I feel like it's got to be him.
Yeah, I think the word you're looking for is apathetic, which that is the worst word. I hate when fans are apathetic because
it's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, fans that don't care. I mean, you'll see it in empty seats. You'll see it in just lack of buzz.
Yeah.
Any chance, and I don't even know how much we can even judge this guy or put it on him or how much it's his fault. But what about Clark Lee, who, by God, I mean, it's pathetic. If they go winless next season in the SEC, Chris, that's 3 out of 4 years. And again, I don't even know how much is his own fault. I don't know how much of it is the school and their lack of NIL and on and on and on. But I don't. It seems like we're spinning our damn wheels here at Vanderbilt.
But like, what is the end result? There are certain teams that I think what I miss from like the old days of college football, and I'm going to date myself on this, but like I miss the days when it's like there's some people you just give like not a lifetime contract to, but what is the ceiling at Arkansas? Like, what is the realistic ceiling at Arkansas? And it's way higher than it is at Vanderbilt. What is the ceiling at Vandy? And you can sit here and say all you want. Like, well, I mean, James Franklin took him to three years in a row, went to bowls, and that's great. That's great. But you know what's happening during that time? Florida was down, especially in 2013. Georgia was down in like a couple of those years. Tennessee was historically down in a couple of those years. Like Kentucky was Kentucky. Like Mizzou was the class of the division for I feel like some of those years when they first came into the SEC. So it's like I don't know what you want Clark Lee to do if you're not going to give him the resources and tools to succeed. Which like that I mean like NIL, recruiting budget, and like the stuff like that you would be able to recruit kids with. Because like it just in this day and age of college football, I don't know that having a degree from Vandy is enough for most kids, and that's so sad and shitty to think about. But it's just the way it is.
Yeah, well, these other graphics you worked up for us, Chris, returning production. Anything jump out to you specifically about these? And I've seen a lot of reaction to this. Yes, it includes transfers. I don't really understand why you count that in returning production, but I guess there's just so many transfers we have to figure them in somehow. And also, this doesn't necessarily mean Texas A&M's got the best team and Mississippi State's got the worst. This is more about it's designed to look at improvement. Who is going to improve the most, and that's typically what this returning production ranks. We got A&M at the top, Texas 2, Mizzou 3, Florida 4, Georgia 5. And your Alabama Crimson Tide all the way down to 15, Chris. I told you that Alabama is in shambles here.
First and foremost, what stands out the most is how great this graphic looks. It looks incredible. Whoever made it is really, really good at graphic design. Two, the thing that always cracks me up about SEC fans in general is this wasn't something that we made. Like these weren't your rankings. These weren't my rankings. This is from Bill Connolly. They're just numbers on a page, and there's very few sports and collective audiences, and in this case, that would be the entire, like all SEC fan bases. There's very few collective audiences that could get triggered by numbers on a page. But SEC fans are definitely that group. I don't know how we came up with this. Go to the fucking website and look it up. I didn't come up with any of these numbers. But I know that. Thank you, Anthony. I will say that some of the stuff that stood out to me, I think last year especially.
Cousin Shay doesn't know how to spell graphic.
Right. He's an X, brother. Last year I think going into the season, Alabama's offense and defense was ranked like I don't know which was which, but for overall offense and defense, the three different rankings, it was 120th, 125th, 127th. So if you're looking for a positive for Alabama, being at 115 isn't great, but that's where you were last year. That's kind of where you live in the graphic almost every single year. Now, the scary part of that, if you're looking at this, is you know that if Bama was there, so is Georgia. And you look at what Georgia was like, what they've had to replace in the NFL draft the past couple years, and they're going to most certainly have to do again, even losing more guys to the portal this year than I feel like they've lost, like they were of significance. 48, no. Lord. But I think the thing that's scary for other teams is you look at the top, just this for offense, right? Mizzou, they return a ton of production. That's great, even though they lose Cody Schrader. A&M, awesome. You get Connor Wigman back from injury. That's fun. But Georgia being in the top 5 of overall and offensive production for returning production is terrifying for the rest of the conference, because like we've already talked about what like Bama was able to do when they were 120th or worse, and they're at least in a similar thing. But this is terrifying because Georgia was a 3-point loss for the first time in roughly 2 years. They had a 3-point loss to a team that made the playoff on a neutral field and didn't get a shot at playing for a third national championship, which is outrageous. If you don't think they're going to come back with a chip on their shoulder, which is scary enough, that's on you. But if you think that they're going to come back with the chip on their shoulder and all this production, that's just terrifying.
Have you heard Feinbaum talk about the fact that Saban prevented Kirby Smart from winning that third in a row, and that was kind of like his moment where he knew, I accomplished. I basically prevented him from surpassing me, and that's when he was kind of informed that Saban was considering walking away. Would you buy into that, given the fact that because as good as Kirby is, and I think he's the best in the game, he's got the best program, he's going to win more championships, I believe, but I don't think he'll ever win 3 in a row. I think he missed that window because it's just too damn hard. And
it's so hard.
There's many examples. Pete Carroll had it rolling at Southern Cal. Miami's had it rolling. Urban Meyer's had it rolling. On and on. I mean, there's many guys that have had a program, and you look at it and say, well, they ain't going nowhere. But then they disappear within 2 or 3 years because it's so hard to keep that momentum. So I say all that, but yeah, I don't think Kirby will ever have an opportunity to win 3 in a row. Would you agree with that?
I'm not going to ever say that Kirby's not going to do something because he's too young and he's too good, and everything they've built to get built over there in Athens is I think too strong, and it's also built to last. That's the thing that I think is the most terrifying, because all the stuff that they're able to do, he was always going to recruit. Georgia always had good classes under Mark Richt, and it's the best college town in America. It's a great education. It's a great time, a great fan base, all that kind of shit. What's up, Beardsley? All that kind of stuff. But it's also now you have all that paired with NIL. And the thing about Georgia too, people always forget, Georgia didn't have the facilities until the last 4 years. They didn't have an indoor facility until very recent. So I don't want to say that he missed his window because of all that. I will also tell you that if he couldn't do it in the era where he went undefeated for the entire regular season for 3 straight years in the SEC, and then you sprinkle in games like against Clemson and Oregon to start the year, right? Like at a neutral site, and neither of those teams scored an offensive touchdown against Georgia. I think it's very difficult to say, well, he's going to get another chance. He's going to get a chance to be in the top 12 every single time, but it's just going to be so much more difficult. And the last thing I'll say on this very long diatribe on it is the thing about expanding the playoff. It's going to be great for ratings. It's going to be super fun for all of us to watch, like those games in the snow up in Wisconsin, or like a whiteout in December from Penn State would be awesome, against a Texas or whoever. But there's a reason why somebody like Coach K, who coached for 4+ decades, only won 5 national championships. They were ranked in the top 5 seemingly every year, but they only won 5 national championships because at that when you expand the playoff like that and you have all these other teams involved and anybody can beat anybody on any given Saturday, it just is so much more difficult. So I don't think it's going to get any easier at all.
Mm-hmm. And now, last thing I wanted to ask you about, Chris, I'm sure you saw Mike Griffith on Feinbaum the other day. Basically said, hey, Saban could come back. And as crazy as that sounds, I've seen Danny Sheridan echo similar sentiments, Chris, and he said with a caveat. Danny Sheridan was with a caveat. He said if they fix NIL and they fix transfer portal, it'll be a level playing field again, essentially, in recruiting for Alabama, and Nick Saban knows he'll dominate it once again. Now that's a huge, huge, huge if. But if they can fix NIL and transfer portal in the next 2 years or so, let's say DeBoer's a complete disaster, which I don't think he will be. I think he's a top 5 coach in college football, given his record. I think Alabama's going to be fine. But if they're not, and they fix NIL, they fix transfer portal, could you see Saban coming back?
I don't know. I did not hear that this is what Mike Griffin said. I love Mike to death, but I didn't know this is what he said. I thought you were going to reference the whole thing, but Kirby doesn't think about Nick Saban or doesn't think about Alabama. It's like, well, you sure as shit do.
Well, it was right after that. Right after that, he basically said, "Yeah, DeBoer's going to flame out, and Saban will be tempted to return."
No, I don't think it's going to happen. He's already 72 years old. I don't think he's going to take. I mean, like, listen, I will tell you from people close to the family that he is really, really enjoying his time. I don't know of a day that he's had where he hasn't been on a golf course. I'm sure there has been. Even today, Kristen posted a picture of her and James out there on the golf course with Saban. So I think he's really enjoying the downtime. I think he's going to really enjoy the stuff with his family and all that kind of stuff. I don't think that, like, I will say I think he's going to have an integral part in trying to fix some of the problems that we currently have with college football. And I think that's kind of for the best. I think that his, there's a lot of takes about Saban and why he left and this and that. I will say that regardless of what side you're on or which fan base you're a part of, that he probably skull dragged your team on for the last 16, 17 years. I will say that I think everyone could agree that he probably does have some good input for how to fix some of the inequities and things that are wrong with college football.
Yeah. All right, Chris. Well, hey, before you go, tell the audience, how can they follow you, and where should we be looking for Fourth and Wrong or whatever your next project is?
Yeah, the unemployment line for now. Unemployment is what I'm calling it. No, I'm hoping that I should have. There's been something in the Gary Harper. I think there's been something I've been working on. I've seen since like December, and hopefully I'll be able to announce this week. Obviously, like I said, like legally, I'm not allowed to say much until this, further removed from SCS, which is fine. But yeah, on Twitter and Instagram at Vern Funquist, VERN Funquist. And then other than that, we'll start Fourth and Wrong up here soon and all that, and that's it.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, when we get it all figured out, man, I'm happy to have you back on. Plug it all. Yeah. But this was fun, and I can't wait to text you as Alabama goes 7-5 and the tears roll in. That's going to make my season.
Yeah, all I know is I'm going to get a new fucking camera after this entire experience tonight, for sure.
All right, brother.
Thanks, brother.